I'm now going to welcome to the stage our second speaker, who's Dan Kayne. Having trained and qualified at US law firm Deschert, Dan's been in-house now at Network Rail for 15 years, starting out as a legal advisor and now general counsel for the regions. In his talk, Dan will be discussing the origins of the O-shaped lawyer, a general counsel-led initiative which highlights the importance of human skills. He'll be sharing the purpose of the initiative, the progress to date, and what the future of the legal education could and perhaps should be. So a warm welcome to Dan.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan Kayne. I'm the General Counsel for Network Rail Regions team. I'm also the founder of the O-shaped Lawyer Programme, an initiative which I've been working on now for over 2 years and which I hope is something that you'll enjoy listening to over the next 10 minutes when it comes to this Employability Special for Verdict. Something I'm really honoured and privileged to be able to support, and I hope that you'll find the next 10 minutes informative and also give you some help and direction as to what your future may hold as far as the legal profession is concerned. So the O-shaped lawyer started when I had a conversation with my group general counsel, my boss, and we were looking to recruit people into our team. And I found that those people I was speaking to, those that we were looking to hire, had lots of fabulous technical and academic experience, but had very little when it came to the human-centric skills, the people skills. And that made it very difficult for me to be able to hire them and engage them in our business and put them in front of senior executives and be able to build that credibility with them. Because particularly for the in-house world, but not exclusively, skills need to be much broader than just the technical offering that has been the traditional way in which lawyers have developed through their legal education and through practice. And what I hope to share with you today is a little bit more of the value of the human skills, the people skills, and why they will help define the lawyers of the next generation. So when I started to think a little bit more about why we were seeing so many academic and technical experts, I started to think about what made a great lawyer. And I then came up with this idea of lawyers being much more well-rounded individuals, hence the O of the O-shape, and came up with the concept of a 5O framework, which I hoped would be very memorable to people, that would allow me to be able to highlight what I felt were the most critical skills when it came to being a lawyer. And they were to be open, and that was to be open to change, to new ideas, to have an open mindset, and perhaps very different to the traditional way of working in the profession, which is quite opaque, which doesn't necessarily promote that transparency that certainly in the in-house world is critical to us doing our job effectively. Secondly was opportunity. So this was the idea that lawyers coming forward will need to start making and taking opportunities rather than waiting for them just to happen. It's all too common a trait for people who have been very successful in their academic world. It's almost fallen on a plate for them to realise when you come into the real professional world that opportunities don't necessarily land on your lap and you need to start looking for them and then taking them. Thirdly was being original. The legal profession often criticised for lacking creativity, largely because we look back at precedent, we look back at what's happened before, and we use that to help form our judgment going forward. However, what it's done is it's stifled a bit of the creativity that definitely exists within every single lawyer that comes through the system. So O for originality is to really bring to the fore and allow to flourish that originality that we all have within us. We just need to allow it to grow. Fourthly is ownership, the importance of taking responsibility for the work that we're doing, not simply giving advice and then sitting back and expecting the client or the business to somehow be able to interpret that in order to create value for their own internal customers, the end users of our service. And finally, optimism, the idea that we have a positive mindset. Mindset is everything. And if we're able to come in with a very positive mindset, that's infectious. That will have an impact on those around us. And ultimately, that will all help us progress much more quickly and much more happily and engaged in the work that we're doing. So let's be a bit more optimistic, a bit more positive. We're so good at learning how to be risk averse and pointing out problems and faults. It's great when we can start to be proactive and point out the positives. So that's where the 5 O's came from. And I started to share that with peers, with the general counsel, and that led to a series of interviews with 18 leading general counsel in the UK. And what that did was allowed us to validate the thoughts that I was having, and then a broader group of GCs were having, about the need for lawyers to be more than just technical experts. And what that report that we produced, that's available on our website, so I do recommend you read it in full, but what it said was that the mindsets of lawyers will need to shift, that technical ability is table stakes. That's what gets you around the table. Those successful lawyers are able to understand the business that they're working for and with, understand the industry that they're working with, understand the people that they're working with, and then start to create value for that business and those people they're working with. A really important third step. Lawyering is so much more than just being able to give legal advice. People pay a lot of money for lawyers and legal advice, and the ability and the necessity to create value is part of the everyday requirements of the professional. And that really helped us develop our purpose. Our purpose as a group with the O-Shape is to about making the profession better. Better for those who use it, better for those who are in it, and importantly in this context, better for those who are entering into it. So with that background in mind, we were able then to start to talk to a wider group across the profession. We had the leading general counsel telling us that this is what they felt was required of the lawyers they worked with and the lawyers that they recruited. We started to look a bit more deeply into why we had got to the position that lawyers were so technically capable but lacked those general people skills, that human centricity that was so important to the modern day general counsel. And it's clear that legal education has a significant part to play. And we started to split our work then into an education work stream and into a practice work stream. And I'll obviously focus more specifically on the education work stream in this context. So the education work stream has meant that we've talked to law schools across the country, particularly in light of the change coming with the SQE replacing the LPC. That's the biggest change in legal education for a generation, and is a change that we cannot allow to go through without ensuring that the kind of skills that we're talking about that are so important to the modern day lawyer find their way into the curriculum in the SQE at law schools. Now what's clear is, after years of consultation and very little in-house involvement when it comes to engaging in that consultation, we've got an SQE that remains quite similar in terms of the regulated content as the LPC. But we've got this white space now, this ability to use additional time to factor in much more tailored approaches in a non-regulated environment, that we can apply the skills that we're talking about, that we can use that as a fabulous opportunity to fill that white space with skills development and not more technical, high quality academic education, which lawyers are traditionally and are very good at, because lawyers tend to be quite smart. But as I read somewhere, the billion-dollar coach, or trillion-dollar coach, a chap called Bill Campbell, and he talked about smarts and hearts, hiring people that were both had the technical capability, had the competence, but were also able to demonstrate compassion in their workplace, warmth and trust. And trust is such an important part of being a lawyer that it's essential we learn how to do it, and do it effectively, in terms of building relationships, in terms of being adaptable, and then creating value. The 3 buckets of skills that came out of the conversations that we had with our general counsel. Now, the attributes that form part of our wider O-shaped model that fit within those 3 buckets aren't particularly new. They're not something that one would look at and go, wow, that's a whole different perspective we're taking. What we've been able to do is synthesize the information from the general counsel and pull it into a very straightforward, easy to understand model of the kind of skills that lawyers will need to have and should have now, but certainly in the next generation. We shouldn't miss this opportunity that will get presented as of autumn this year with the SQE. We must take advantage of it. And so the work that we're doing with law schools is being able, and particularly with ULaw, where we've had already some introductory courses to the O-shaped lawyer program, where we've gone through the basics of the attributes that I've just described. There are 12 attributes within the 3 buckets, has allowed us, I think, to be able to introduce the concepts. But what we would like very much is for law schools across the board to engage more, and also then to start adopting the skill sets as part of their offering. So when it comes to where the O-shaped lawyer is going to go next, I've said that we're looking at having a significant influence across legal education. And if we're able to bring about this change when it comes to law schools, then I think we'll have made progress on our first step of our really broad ambition of transforming how education, learning and development takes place within the legal profession. Because it can't simply be about providing the tools at law schools of these different skills, this broader range of understanding, and then that being left to one side when people enter practice. The kind of skills that we're talking about need to be practiced and rehearsed and practiced again, just like the technical skills that you'll be so much more familiar with having come through the university and law school approach. But we're only going to be able to have the impact that we want to have if we can engage with law firms and their learning and development and their graduate recruitment teams to be able to bring about a change that occurs across the profession. And that's why we've split into 2 work streams. We've split into education, where we are talking to law schools and universities as well, thinking that we can have this kind of impact early in careers, but also the law firms. The ability to be able to continue this learning of these skills, practice these skills, and genuinely be trained in things that General Counsel are saying they find incredibly valuable. So when we talk about employability, technical skills are table stakes. That was loud and clear from the interviews that we've done. And by the way, I'm not in any way, shape or form seeking to lessen the importance of those skills. They're incredibly important, and that's what gets you to the table in the first place. However, the more rounded lawyer, the O-shaped lawyer of the future, is the lawyer that's able to bring about a whole range of skills and apply them using their judgment in the right context. That adaptability is going to be critical for a world that is changing after the pandemic and beyond, that's going to be a much more volatile, uncertain, complex environment. So I want to finish, I think, by highlighting where I would like the O-shaped program to go and how perhaps you can help engage and help us take it forward. We have, I think, a few more months before the SQE comes in the autumn. We are working hard with the law schools, and any influence that we can have and bring to bear in order to ensure these skills come about as part of people's development at that stage is critical. Our work will continue with law firms, particularly the L&D functions within law firms, learning and development, that have been incredibly supportive across a range of firms. There have been some firms in the top 20, 30, 40, 50 firms who have been incredibly supportive of the work that we're doing, recognising that that's what their clients want. And ultimately, this will very much boil down to clients driving through the changes that they would like to see. So once we've got to the stage that we have clients driving it, law firms picking it up, law schools will shift their thinking. And the more this is talked about, the more these skills are understood, the more likely they will become part of every lawyer's makeup as we go into the next generation. So our work will continue. Do feel free to engage with us through the website. Do feel free to engage with us on our LinkedIn group, where we are talking about some of these issues around leadership, around behaviours, around attributes, and around the profession more generally. And I hope that as you engage with it, you'll see that the impact that we're trying to have is much wider than just simply a training programme. It's much more than simply being able to show lawyers what human skills are. It's applying them, and it's making a difference to people's lives and their engagement as a lawyer. Finally, thank you very much for listening. I hope that you found it useful, and please do get in touch through that LinkedIn channel, and I'm very happy to take any questions at an appropriate time. Thanks all. Bye now.
Well, thank you very much to our second speaker, Dan Kayne there, the O-shaped lawyer. Just to remind you, open, opportunity, original, ownership and optimism. Of course, part of the challenge there, not only to develop those skills, but also then to articulate them and communicate them to employers to let them know that that's what you possess and therefore why you'd be an attractive candidate. Interesting that Dan started his talk there by referring to when he was hiring, what was he looking for? That's a really important perspective to hear, that it's that wider set of skills that's important. For him, it's the O-shaped lawyer. For me, it's employee agility. They're same sort of principles, and absolutely you will find that so many people who you're engaging with now are definitely telling you the technical skills are important, but the wider attributes are what really makes the difference. So absolutely, hear to everything that Dan had to say.